But of course, my first observation is that the entire asylum system is rigged to fail as many people as possible.
Yes.
The government's target is to reduce numbers, regardless of the merits of the individual case. So every refugee, no matter what horrors they've been through, is assumed to be a fraudster and a liar. The presumption of a person who is faking it is at the core of the UK's asylum system and the way in which all refugees are treated. But I've got to say that the treatment of LGBTI asylum seekers is much worse than most others. For example, on average, the refusal rate for a gay asylum seeker is much, much higher on a first application than for any other category. Much, much higher. And there is a culture of disbelief. Now, in the past, what the government used to say was, oh, we accept that you were beaten up, that you're arrested, that you're put in prison, but we don't accept that this amounts to persecution within the framework of the Refugee Convention 1951. And then when they couldn't get away with that, they said, well, we do accept you've been persecuted, but we think it would be safe for you to go back to your home country and behave with discretion. I.e., go back, change your name, move to a part of the country where no one knows you, and stop having gay sex. Then no one will know you're gay and you won't be persecuted. Thankfully, in 2010, the High Court ruled that was illegal. So what the government is now doing is saying, we don't believe you're gay. We accept these things that happen to you, but we don't believe you are gay. So they will say that someone who has been through incredible persecution, it's some other reason that they've been engaged in criminal acts, that's the explanation. And so to prove one's sexuality or gender identity has become a huge hurdle. How do you prove that you're gay? So I've just been dealing with a case of two Pakistani men who've lived in Britain, who have a civil partnership, who produce love letters, photographs of them together, photographs of them at gay clubs and bars and on gay protests. The Home Office says, all this is a setup. They've done all these things to pretend to be gay. So the solicitor said, well, how do they prove that they're gay? If you say all this evidence counts for nothing, what do they have to do to prove they're gay? The Home Office says, that's your problem. So the Home Office won't say what constitutes proof or evidence. Now some LGBTI refugees are so desperate that they've photographed and even filmed them having sex with their partners. And these are often people who come from cultures where any display of affection is deeply frowned upon, let alone nakedness or sex. But they're being driven to this in desperation by the Home Office. And there was a case last year of one man who did this, who actually filmed himself having sex with his partner and presented it to the court, and the judge turned around and said, I see you're having sex with your partner, but I also note that when he's penetrating you, you don't have an erection, therefore you can't be gay. This is the depths of depravity to which the Home Office of this country is resorting. So it's a really, really big issue. And, it's an issue which Theresa May promised to address, but has singularly failed to do so. All refugees, for whatever reason, if they're genuine, they deserve a safe haven. And many of them have much to give Britain. I can remember many years ago, in 2004, 2005, a gay Iraqi doctor fled Iraq after threats and attempts to kill him. They came to his house, Islamist extremist militias, motivated by religious hatred and prejudice, came to his house and threw grenades in through the windows. Fortunately, he wasn't there. But they tracked down his partner, found him, and murdered him in the street. The doctor fled to his hospital and was hid by nurses in the female nurses' quarters when the Islamist militias came searching for him in the hospital. And then eventually, through various mechanisms, he was spirited out of Iraq and came to Britain. After a long, hard battle, he did win asylum, but only because he had the support of people like me and others. If he'd been left to his own devices and his own solicitor, he wouldn't have succeeded. In the end, he ended up going to Scotland and working in Scotland. Working in Scotland at a hospital where they desperately needed his skills. So he actually made a real contribution to the community. I just want to row back slightly. When it comes to LGBTI asylum seekers like this man from Iraq, you know, they've been through so much, such incredible traumas, and they come here seeking refuge. Yet together with all other refugees, they face these incredible hurdles. The government has cut legal aid so much that it's virtually impossible for any solicitor to prepare a proper asylum claim. And of course the reason why the government has cut the money is to increase the failure rate, so it can send more refugees back to appease the Daily Mail and UKIP. Also, many of the refugees are put in asylum detention centres, which are prisons by another name. In fact, they have fewer rights in an asylum detention centre than a murderer or a rapist on remand. They haven't got the capacity to prepare their cases, they've got limited access to a solicitor. They're often abused, sometimes by staff, but more often by other inmates. Beaten up by other inmates because they're lesbian or gay. And asylum staff too often just look the other way and say, you deal with it. So that's another problem. Plus, many of them are put on a system called fast track, which is whereby they've got average about 2 weeks or so to prepare their asylum case. Well, no one can prepare a proper asylum case and get all the evidence and documentation in 2 weeks. It's impossible. But fast track again is designed to fail as many as possible. And even then, often the Home Office does the whole system, the application, the refusal and the appeal within 2 to 4 weeks. This is not justice. This is not fairness. This is a system of institutional bias rigged to fail as many asylum seekers as possible. And it is unconscionable that a democratic nation like Britain, which prides itself on respect for human rights, treats other genuine refugees in this way.
Yes?